Good evening, my friends. I want you to stop something today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not after one more sign, one more proof, one more moment of feeling ready. Right now, in this breath, the only breath that has ever truly belonged to you, I want you to stop asking the world for what you already are. I am not here to teach you a technique. I am here to remind you of a fact. The fact is this: your outer life is not the truth of you. It is only the echo of a conversation you have been having inside yourself for years, maybe your whole life. A conversation so quiet and so constant that you stopped noticing it was even a conversation at all. You called it reality. It was never reality. It was assumption wearing a disguise. So tonight I want you to change the conversation, not with effort, not with strain, simply with decision. I want you to say inside the private chamber of your own mind, with no audience and no performance, I already have what I have been asking for. Not I will have it. Not I am working toward it. I already have it now, in the only place where anything has ever been made real, before it showed itself to the eyes. Let me ask you something plain. Have you ever noticed that the things you worried about the most seem to arrive with strange precision? Not because the universe enjoys punishing you, but because worry is also a form of imagining, and imagining held long enough becomes fact. If your fear can build a life you did not want, then your desire, held the same way, with the same faithfulness, can build the life you do want. This is not mysticism, this is law. The law does not care whether you use it on purpose or by accident. It only responds to the state you live in. So which state are you living in? This is the only question that matters, not what is in your bank account, not what your circumstances currently show, not what your family expects of you, or what your past has taught you to expect of yourself. What is the state you are living in right now, in the unseen room, where all of your days are written before you walk into them? Everything you can see, the walls around you, the numbers on a screen, the shape of your week, is a shadow. It is cast by something. It cannot cast itself. And if the shadow is wrong, you do not reach out and try to fix the shadow. You cannot smooth it, argue with it, or rearrange it into something better. You turn instead to the light and the object standing in it, because the shadow will change the instant the object changes, and not one moment before. You are the object. Your assumption is the light. Your life is the shadow on the wall. So, I ask you again, gently but without apology, what are you assuming about yourself when no one is checking your posture, when no one is grading your thoughts, when you are simply alone with your own mind at 3 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning? That private, unwatched assumption is the only architect your life has ever had. Consider what it would mean to actually live from the end. Not to hope for the end, not to visualize the end for 10 minutes and then step back out into a life that contradicts it for the other 23 hours and 50 minutes of the day. To live from it, to let it be the floor you stand on rather than the ceiling you reach for. A person who has already arrived does not spend their days straining toward the horizon. They rest, they walk slowly, they speak with fewer words, because each word is no longer trying to convince anyone of anything, least of all themselves. This is the difference between wanting and having. Wanting keeps the object at a distance, because to want a thing by definition is to not yet have it. And as long as you keep insisting inwardly that you do not have it, the universe, which is only a faithful mirror, keeps insisting right back. Having, on the other hand, has a different posture altogether. Having is quiet. Having does not check. Having does not need daily proof, because the person who truly has something does not spend their nights auditing whether they still have it. They simply live from it. So today, decide to have, not to want, not to hope, not to strategize your way towards some future permission slip that will finally allow you to feel complete. Decide in this moment that the version of you who already lives in the fulfillment of your desire is not a future stranger you are trying to become. That version is you, right now, existing in a dimension that is just as real as this room, just as real as your own heartbeat, only unseen by the outer eye, because it has not yet been given the chance to press itself outward into form. Everything first exists unseen. The tree exists in the seed long before it exists in the field. The building exists in the mind of the architect long before it exists in steel and glass. Your desire is no different. It already exists, complete, finished, whole, in the only workshop where anything has ever truly been made, which is your own imagination. Your task was never to build it from nothing. Your task is only to assume it is already built, and to let that assumption become so natural, so unremarkable, so woven into the fabric of how you carry yourself, that the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself to agree with you. I know what will happen next, because it happens to everyone who dares to do this seriously. The old self will object. It always does. It will remind you of the gap between what you are claiming and what your circumstances currently show. It will call this objection realism, and it will feel very convincing, because it has had years, maybe decades, to practice its argument. But listen closely. That voice is not protecting you from disappointment. It is protecting its own right to keep existing. It has been the one steering the ship for a long time, and it does not enjoy being replaced. You do not need to fight this voice. Fighting it only proves to your own mind that it deserves your attention. Instead, simply stop feeding it. Let it speak into an empty room. Return again and again, without drama, without frustration, to the new assumption. Return the way you return your eyes to the road while driving, not with panic each time they drift, but with a calm, unremarkable correction. This is not a war you win once. It is a homecoming you repeat until the new house feels more familiar than the old one ever did. There will be a temptation to look for evidence too early, to check daily whether anything has changed, to dig up the seed to see if it has sprouted. Resist this. A gardener who pulls up the soil every morning to inspect the roots will never have a garden, no matter how good the seed was. The growing happens beneath the surface, in the dark, in the part of the process you are not invited to watch. Your only responsibility is to keep watering it with feeling and to leave it undisturbed by doubt. What does it feel like truly to be the person who already has this? Not the performance of it for others, the private interior feeling of it. How do they wake up? How do they carry their shoulders when they walk into a room? How do they speak when someone challenges them? There is a specific quietness in a person who is not trying to prove anything, a settledness that has nothing to do with arrogance and everything to do with certainty. Arrogance is loud because it is compensating. Certainty is quiet because it has nothing left to compensate for. Practice inhabiting that quietness now, before the outer proof arrives, not after. This is the part almost everyone gets backwards. They wait for the proof to feel calm, but calm was always supposed to come first. The feeling is not the reward for the manifestation. The feeling is the cause of it. You do not become peaceful because you got what you wanted. You get what you wanted because you finally became peaceful about already having it. Watch your inner speech today, the actual sentences running underneath your day, the ones nobody else can hear. Are they rehearsing lack? Are they narrating shortage, delay, comparison, the story of what has not happened yet? Or are they speaking as someone for whom abundance is simply the given, the background hum of an ordinary day, no more remarkable than the air moving in and out of your lungs? You can change this sentence by sentence right now, without waiting for a single external circumstance to shift first. This is the part of your life you have always had complete authority over, even when you forgot you did. I want to say something plain about desire itself, because so many people have been taught to be ashamed of wanting more. Your desire for a better life is not vanity. It is not greed. It is information. It is your own deeper self showing you a version of your life that is already possible, already real somewhere in the structure of things, waiting only for your agreement. You were not shown that vision so you could spend years mourning the distance between here and there. You were shown it because it belongs to you, and the showing was the invitation to claim it, not to admire it from a safe, apologetic distance. So stop shrinking the desire to make it feel more acceptable. Stop qualifying it with phrases like, if it is meant to be, or maybe someday, or I know this is a lot to ask. You are not asking. Asking implies you are separate from what you want, standing outside a locked door, hoping someone lets you in. You are not outside the door. You are the one who built the house. Speak as someone who built it, not as someone waiting on the porch. Here is the paradox that sits quietly at the center of all of this, and I want to hand it to you directly because it is the part people miss the most. The moment you stop grasping for the outcome is the moment the outcome stops resisting you. Not because you gave up. Giving up and releasing are not the same thing. Giving up says, I no longer believe this is possible. Releasing says, I no longer need to grip this so tightly, because on some level deeper than logic, I already know it is done. The grip is what keeps things at a distance. The release paired with quiet conviction is what lets them arrive. Think of how a person behaves who has genuinely, completely stopped needing something. There is an ease to them that nothing can quite explain from the outside. They are not performing indifference. They have simply moved past the anxious center of wanting into the settled center of having. And it is precisely that ease, that lack of grasping, that seems to invite the very thing they once grasped for. This is not an accident, and it is not a coincidence. It is the natural behavior of a law that has been running the same way since long before anyone gave it a name. Let this settle into you today, not as information to remember, but as a decision to live from. When you wake up tomorrow and the day after that, do not wake up as someone auditioning for a better life. Wake up as someone who already has one, quietly, without announcement, the way you already know your own name, without needing to check it against a mirror each morning. Let your decisions today be made from that place. Not from panic, not from scarcity, not from the old habit of asking whether you can afford something before asking whether it is aligned with who you have decided to be. Let your speech be shaped by it. Let your posture be shaped by it. Let the way you greet a stranger, the way you answer a hard question, the way you sit in a silent room by yourself, all of it be shaped by the simple, undramatic decision that you have already arrived. The old story, the one built on waiting, on proving, on hoping quietly that one day the circumstances would finally give you permission to feel whole. That story is finished now. Not because the calendar changed, but because you changed the only thing that was ever actually yours to change, the private assumption running beneath everything you do. Let the outer world take its time catching up. It always does. It has never once failed to. Your only work was never to force it. Your only work was to become, on the inside, the person for whom this life is simply normal, simply expected, simply true. So, say it quietly, without performance, without needing anyone else to witness it. I already have what I have been asking for. Not as a wish thrown upward into an empty sky, but as a fact settled into the deepest room of your own mind. Rest there. Live there. Let it be the address you return to every single time the day tries to convince you otherwise. And when people eventually ask you what changed, and they will ask, you will not need a long explanation. You will simply know, with the same quiet certainty, you know your own name, that you did not chase this life into existence. You assumed it. You lived inside it long before the eyes of the world could see it. And then, in its own time, in the only way it has ever worked, the world simply agreed with you. This is not the end of a lesson. This is the beginning of how you live from here forward.